everybody, to the newest edition of One Man's Trash. Ryan Spillwork, CJ Nikowski. I realized after the last episode we did with Matt Holliday that I do a really poor job of introducing our guest. And I think what we need to do is find a happy medium where maybe we bring him in and then we introduce him versus we say really nice things about him here so he doesn't hear it. I don't know. I mean, this is an on-air production meeting. But I can say that, look, our next guest he saved over 40 games in a season once. He was a two-time All-Star, was a teammate of yours. He was a teammate of mine for a little bit.
I never played with Gravy, so that's incorrect.
Okay, so he was not a teammate of yours.
You're already messing stuff
up.
Played
with the Reds for a bunch of years. So let's get him over here.
All right, let's see if we got this right last time after that the disaster we had last time. Different. And Danny Graves.
Yeah.
Could you hear us when we were talking or no?
I did not.
Oh, so that's good to know. Now we do know that when people are in the waiting room, they can't hear us.
Yeah, I felt like you guys hung up on me. It was
no.
It got close. It would have been your fault.
And we want you to hear the introduction that we have for you. So you played baseball for 11 years in the major leagues, a two-time All-Star. You were one of the firemen for the Cincinnati Reds in 2004, had 41 saves. I had a chance to meet you a couple times. We were teammates in 2007 in spring training. We played together in the Cooperstown Hall of Fame game a couple years ago, where I realized that there is a massive fandom for Danny Graves. The reason why I'm wearing this jersey is the closest thing that I had to cut off sleeves, which is what you wore with the Reds. So we're excited to have you.
That's the reason you're showing the guns today. I thought maybe because you wanted to show your tattoos. I have tattoos, and that's something else we have in common, Spilly.
No.
I thought it was your Cobra Kai outfit. I thought I was watching The Karate Kid when Spilly came out here with that, which is amazing. So we always look for the tie-in. You heard about Spilly's. You played for the Mets a little bit, so I pulled out my old Mets jersey. I want you to know I am making a monster sacrifice to put this Reds hat on. This is my batting practice hat from 1995 on the road, and apparently my head has gotten bigger since then. And as much as I've tried to stretch this thing out, dude, at the end of the show, I'm going to pull this off and show you the massive, deep red mark that I'm going to have across my forehead from wearing this all for you.
I appreciate that. You're going to have the biggest headache because of that hat, too.
Oh,
and so the Mets jersey, too, do you still have this in your tagline that you have the lowest ERA in the history
of course it does.
Well, I took it out of my bio, but it's not that I mean, I still live by the mantra. It is minimum 5 innings pitched. Minimum 5 innings pitched. Yeah.
Zero, right?
Yeah.
That's
5
awesome.
games, and I got out of there before they realized that this probably isn't going to work out.
I love it.
So what's going on? Before we get into your stuff, and first of all, thank you for doing this. We've been having a blast having guys come on and kind of share some stuff from their personal collections. But obviously, we know you've done a lot of stuff since you've been done. Some media, some coaching, different things in the media. I think all of us, the three of us, could talk about that all day long and just try to bounce around and figure out and catch our groove. But give us an update on where you are right now, 2020. What's going on in the life of Danny Graves?
So 2020, going into this year, I had plans on getting back with the Reds on radio, doing some of their games. We upped the amount of games, so almost double what I did last year. Now that Marty Brennaman is gone, a new guy, Tommy Thrall, is taking over as the play-by-play guy. So I'm jumping in to mix and match with Jeff Brantley when he goes and does the games on Fox TV. So get an opportunity to do that. Also doing some Fox pregame and postgame for the Reds, doing a handful of those games throughout the year. Hopefully that gets started soon and we can all get back to doing that. But right before the season was about to start, I was actually a high school softball coach.
What?
And we got off to a great start. We were 8-0. We just came off winning a tournament. While we're here, I'll show you the ring. This is the ring we got for winning the softball tournament.
Oh, nice. That's sweet. It's amazing how big the rings have gotten for amateurs, right?
Dude, I pulled out some. It's crazy, and it's heavier than any of the other rings that I've ever gotten from winning championships in the minor leagues. Yeah,
it's absolutely amazing. You know, it's kind of cool too. First of all, I mean, you know, getting more opportunity in the booth with Marty being done. On the radio side, are you doing play-by-play? Because more often than not, the analyst for radio also has to do some play-by-play.
You know what, CJ? Marty threw me in there one time. We were in Washington last year, towards the end of the year, and a of course, every road trip we were on, there was people that wanted to come in and say goodbye to Marty, take pictures with him. So this one instance, somebody came in and the inning was about to start, and I'm like going like this, waving to him like, come on. And he's like, straight panic. And he's like, no, you take it. So we got back on the air, and I'm like, welcome back. We're in the 7th inning. I did the score. I set everything back up, and I look back, and he's still sitting there flapping his gums, and I'm like waving him, help. Yeah. And he's like, no, you got it. So he made me do the whole inning, and this was the longest inning of the game. The Nationals hit like 5 home runs. They scored 9 runs, and I'm like, my debut of doing play-by-play couldn't have gone any worse than it did.
I mean, you didn't get a chance to prep or anything. I mean, you just went.
No prepping.
That's brutal.
Let me add, so Marty Brennaman I'm such a fan of him. Yeah, and his first game that he ever called in the big leagues was when Henry Aaron hit the tying home run with Babe Ruth. It was 7-14. That was his first call. His first call is that home run.
Yeah.
What kind of advice did Marty give you? I mean, this is a Hall of Famer. This is one of the best who've ever done it in Cincinnati. He is an amazing man, an amazing human. What advice did he give you?
Well, he just basically said, tell people what you see. Don't try to sugarcoat things. Obviously, you don't want to, he said, don't be as brutal as I am at times. But, people want to hear the truth, and they want to hear your opinion. And you have the background to validate what you say. And when you say it like you believe it. Don't just say it like as a question, like you don't know if it's true or not. Say it, and then a lot of people are going to believe what you say anyways because of what you've done in the past. But he said just always be who you are. Don't try to be somebody else when you're out there. And somebody has a problem with what you say. There's going to be some people that have problems, but you just go out there and keep talking about the game and describing the game the best that you can.
Hey, last one for me before we get into some of your stuff. Coaching softball. I've heard kind of both ways that sometimes guys like coaching girls better, maybe get a little bit of a different response that you might get from the guys. But I also feel like softball is somewhat of a different game. There's a lot of similarities, but there's also a lot of differences. My wife played in college. We've talked about that, a bunch as far as the differences in the game. So I'm curious, those two things, the difference in baseball and softball to you, and then coaching girls over boys.
Okay, so the difference in the high school level with boys and girls is the boys think they know everything already. They think that they're all first-round draft picks and they're going to play in the big leagues like in 2 or 3 years. To me, they're harder to teach. As far as the girls have the attitudes at times, but they'll do anything you ask them to do as long as you explain why you're doing it. It's like we're all married and we all know that we have to explain to our wives things that we do. So it's the same thing with teaching the girls. If you tell them and this is why we do it, I'm not just doing it just to tell you to do it, then they'll go out and do it, and they'll play hard and they'll do what they can for you. To me it's such an easier thing to teach softball too, because it's a faster game. The bases are so much shorter. You're always stealing. You're always running. And one game we had 18 stolen bases.
What?
Oh yeah, 18 stolen bases. My leadoff hitter, she had like 6 that game. It's absolutely ridiculous. And there's no running up to score either. We played in this tournament, and you go by, if it's a tiebreaker, you go by who scores the most runs. So we ended up, I'm like holding runners up at third, like we're not scoring no more. But then they would start walking people and we get hits, playing station to station. They finally stopped 2 of our games at 18 to nothing. And it's like, yeah, I felt bad, but that was part of the game. That's part of softball. They don't look at it as running the score up.
Look, Cobra Kai would tell you sweep the leg.
Yes, it's no mercy.
No mercy.
Hey, real quick on that. So how about this? I just looked. The Twins had 28 stolen bases last year as a team. You guys had 18 in one game. Yeah.
Yes, that's
amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah. I told them we're going to run all day long.
That's what you got, Gravy.
All right, so I've been thinking about this. I'm not sure which one to start with.
Wherever you want to go.
Okay, so, all right, I'll save the best for last. What I think is the best and funniest for last. I did pull this out, Ken Griffey Jr. 2000 All-Star shoes.
Oh, wow.
This is my first All-Star game. He signed them for me. He gave them to me to wear, but I wasn't cool enough. I didn't feel like I was flashy enough. And these, I don't know how, like if you can tell how white they are. Well, CJ, you remember back in the day, the pinstripe for the Reds, they weren't white. They were like almost an off-white, not cream, but they were like an off-white. So there was no way I could wear to match.
They would stick out like a sore thumb.
Oh, totally. And then some little short Asian fat kid wearing these fancy shoes, not going to work. So I had him sign them for me, and this was the first year that he played with us with the Reds. So
man, those are awesome. We saw some shoes last episode with Matt Holliday. It's amazing, man, and obviously Griffey's shoes are huge ones. But how awesome the shoes have gotten at the big league level, man. And those are cool. Those are keepers for sure.
It's ridiculous. These I thought were all fancy, but what they have nowadays, it doesn't even compare.
Let me follow up on something that you said, because I think it's really important to note, and maybe you might have something that correlates with it. But in the history of in the history of major leagues, there's over 19,000 players who have played. I believe your number is 14,525, which is an amazing number. But you are there's only been one in major league history to come from Vietnam. And does that mean anything to you when you think about your heritage, your family, that country, the relationship, that country in the United States, and being the only one?
You know, Spilly, for a while, it didn't seem like much of anything to me, but as my career started going further and further, and people kept mentioning it to me, I actually went to Vietnam. We went and did a show with HBO, Real Sports, going back to Vietnam, trying to help out. So that really changed my whole perspective of it, because growing up, my dad never talked about Vietnam. Like, it was one of those things that, you know, you didn't bring up, and I wasn't even going to attempt to mention anything about it. But I took my mom back when we went to Vietnam, and like that whole new perspective of being proud of where I was from. You know, a lot of people don't know much of the history of the Vietnam War. There was a lot of people that just absolutely hated it and thought that we never should have went. But if we didn't, I probably wouldn't be here. So I'm very proud of being the first and only. And I really don't see any more Vietnamese players coming from there. They are playing baseball there, but the level is not where it needs to be. They're trying to get into the World Baseball Classic, but they're far from that. So I'm probably going to be the only one for a while.
What an awesome part of your history, though, man. That is so awesome.
You're the only one.
Yeah. The only one. So, all right, here, a couple more things. My favorite movie of all time is Young Guns. I'm not sure if you guys like that movie or not, but I know every single line from that movie. And of course, in LA, you know, you get those Hollywood people coming. Well, Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez came into our locker room after I finished the game, and the first thing that I said to them was, "I could have killed you, Dick." And they both looked at me like, "Okay, seriously, that's the dumbest thing ever." I was so
that's awesome.
I know. I was so geeked out about it. Okay, two more things, and then I'll let you guys go. So, 1996, I went on a baseball cruise. A few other guys went with us, and Stan Musial was on this cruise.
Oh man.
He was like did a lot of magic tricks, and you know, a lot of the old timers have these little knickknacks that they do. Well, he made a dollar bill into a ring, you know, and passing them out. So it's an actual dollar bill into a ring. His dollar bill, not mine. Signed it. He signed it to where you get.
Holy moly!
Yeah.
That is so cool, dude. Like, that's the kind of stuff I love, right? Like, you can't replicate that anywhere else. You mentioned he did it to other folks or whatever here and there, so you might find a few. But if you didn't spend some time with him in person, having a conversation, him running through that entire thing, nobody else has it. I love that item, man. That's cool.
You know, and I thought I lost this too. And it was at my mom's house. She was cleaning out my old bedroom, and all my stuff when I retired, I just sent it all to her house and just had it sitting there. And she found this for me.
Could you imagine if that thing would have been gone? I mean, like, and where was it? Was it in an old like shoe, or where did you have it in a box of cool stuff?
Yeah, it was in an old shoebox where I had baseball cards and just knickknacks thrown in there. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Crazy. I know, it's crazy. Now I got to keep it high enough so where my 4-year-old can't reach it because he'll rip it up.
Of course. Hey, so tell us a little bit more about the cruise. Was it just was it something with fans? Was it just that you guys happened to be there? What was going on exactly?
Yeah, it was a baseball cruise with fans. They invited a bunch of younger guys. Phil Nevin was one of them, Jason Isringhausen. It was when we first came up and spent some time in the big leagues. Who were you with, Nike or Adidas back then, CJ?
So yeah, I did. 96. I started with Reebok and then finished with Adidas, but then I was Reebok. Yeah.
See, that's why you weren't invited, because these were a bunch of Nike guys that the Nike reps asked us, or I believe, if we wanted to go do this, and it was a free cruise, and I was like, yeah, for sure. So, so we went on it, and we had a good time. Bill Russell, who was managing the Dodgers at that time, was on the cruise. Mickey Lolich was on the cruise too.
Yeah. That's amazing. It sounds like a fun one, man. I mean, Nevin and Isringhausen, I'm guessing you guys probably had a pretty good time.
Yeah, Nevin himself he's a trip. Yeah. He's definitely a trip. Well,
did you play with Nevin at all on Team USA?
No. So he was always 2 years older than me. He was on the Team USA in '92, the Olympic year, and I was on Team USA in '93. So I missed playing with him. I played against him when he was at Fullerton, though, the year that they won the World Series.
I think I actually faced him in his first big league at bat, if memory serves. I know we're all getting old, man. These are things I used to know this stuff on the top of my head. I can't remember anymore, but I can't remember if he got his first hit off me or was just his first at bat, or could have been both actually in the same game. But good dude, man. Great dude.
He's a great dude.
Yeah.
And that's funny. People always ask me who my first strikeout was, and I honestly have to go look it up.
Really?
Yeah.
Spilly, you got to remember your first hit, of course, who it was off of, right?
Todd Coffey.
Yeah, and Jay Bell was my first punch out.
At 280 before the year's over. Here's the 0-2. Yes, sir. Good delivery by CJ.
It was the only one I had in the whole 6 innings.
Well, mine was either Denny Hawking or Pat Mears. I get them confused all the time. I can't remember which one. But my first hit was off of Mike Maddox.
Funny how that works, right? Remember that. You remember your first hit, but not your first punch out. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Spilly, I can't even remember that I can't believe you remember that we were in spring training together. I wasn't there for that long.
No, you weren't there for very long, but the reason why I remember is because you had this group of fans that always followed you. Like everywhere you went, you were like a mini rock star. and I remember watching your career because it always stood out. You were a great closer in Cincinnati, and then they wanted to take advantage of you getting outs, and they turned you into a starter. And I've always, I mean, like looking at stuff in hindsight, you like I remember it happened to Jabba Chamberlain. I think it's happened to a lot of different guys that had a lot of success in the back end. TJ, a lot of success.
Everybody makes mistakes.
And then they tried to make him into a starter, and you stood out because I always thought of you as like this. It's an all-star closer. Why would they try to make him a starter? As a sidebar, what do you remember about turning into a starter from a closer? Did you have reservations like I did when I looked at it?
Yeah, I had reservations for a couple years. They'd asked me to do it for a while, and when Bob Boone was named manager in 2001, he immediately wanted me to do that, and I was like, I haven't started since high school. I don't know how to do that. And he's like, well, you have 4 pitches and you throw hard. You can do that. You throw sinkers. And I'm like, is it really that easy? Because it's not. Obviously, it's not. And I said, I like pitching at the back end, whether it's 2 innings, 1 inning, whatever it may be. And by the time 2003 came along, I signed a 3-year extension, and then I agreed to do it because I felt like, oh, well, I got some security. I can try it this first year. And then it was a disaster. I was 4-15 that year. I did lead the team in innings pitched and games started, and I even came out of the rotation in August. So, but it ruined my career batting average for sure. It was
crushed it. And listen, obviously based on the fact that you remember who you got your first hit off of, that matters. So that was 03, right? That was your starting year? Yeah, you struggled a little bit. 6 for 54 that year.
And you did punch out Denny Hawking, so you did get that right. So your first punch out.
He was the first one? Okay. See, I couldn't remember if it was him or Pat Mears.
And another good dude, Denny Hawkins is a good dude. Yeah, with some good personality. He's pretty funny on Twitter. That is amazing, man. But you're right. I think that's what happens when you show depth of repertoire and you got comfortable and you found your success. I've gotten pulled out of the bullpen a couple of times because of it. And the lesson there is, kids, don't try to throw too many pitches. If you want to be a reliever, pick 2 pitches and be done with it, or someone's going to try to pull you out of the bullpen and make your life really difficult.
Yes, you don't need more than 2 pitches out of the bullpen. Just throw 2 really good ones and then be done with it.
And everyone will leave you alone.
Yeah, exactly. Wish it was that easy. Okay, I got one more for you guys. So,
sweet.
95 was my first year of pro ball. And I had, of course, we all got these weird superstitions. Well, one of mine, starting in single A, I made it all the way to triple A that year because everybody ahead of me in the Indians organization and bullpen were getting hurt. Like, it was ridiculous. People were dropping like flies. So I was pitching decent at each level. So I was always wearing a watch before the game and during the game. And when I would be called to go warm up, I'd take it off and throw it in my jacket right away. And that was my thing, like, to have a watch. So I get up to AAA, and so Billy Ripken is on the team, and we all know how hysterical Billy Ripken is. My first game in AAA, I didn't get a jacket. They didn't give me a jacket or anything. My jersey didn't even have a name on it. It just had, the number with the worn out patch on the back where somebody else's name was.
Uh-huh.
So they said, Danny, go get loose to go in the game. And I was like looking around, I'm like, what am I gonna do with my watch? So Billy was right there, and I said, Rip, can you hold my watch for me? He's like, sure, kid, I'll hold your watch. And he called me kid all the time. So that was the thing. So I gave him my watch to hold. I ended up striking out 2 out of the 3 guys. And I said at the end of the season, this was the same year that Cal broke the streak. And he brought us all back. I'll show you while I'm here. He brought us all back these balls from that game that he broke the streak.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
So he brought him back for all the teammates. But at the end of the season, I said, can you please just sign a bat for me? Well, he gives me a broken bat. Can you see where it's broken there?
Yeah.
And this is his.
Uh-huh. And
he wrote on it, Danny, thanks for letting me hold your watch. This thing, I'm telling you,
that's awesome.
I enjoyed finding this more than the Stan Musial dollar bill, because Rip, he was the nicest, funniest, meanest, everything. Like he was the greatest, probably one of the greatest teammates I've ever had. And it was only for a short period of time, but I'm so glad that I found this. This is definitely a keeper. I need to put it in a case or something.
Without a doubt, man. And so that was in Buffalo. So you were in Buffalo without a jacket.
Well, we were on the road. We were in Indianapolis, the old Busch Stadium in Indianapolis,
Yeah.
where they filmed 8 Men Out.
Don't tell Spilly he hates that movie. I love it. He gets mad because I said the same thing, because that was my home ballpark for a little while that year. So I wonder if we probably even crossed paths. I was only there for maybe about I guess it was a little bit of July that I ended up being there. I got traded at the deadline, and a little bit in June, I guess, too.
So I didn't get there until August.
Okay, so I just missed you after the deadline. But then you called Indianapolis home for a little bit when you played at the new ballpark, right? When you were with the Reds,
when I got traded to the
Reds,
AAA,
they moved into the new ballpark at that time, right?
Yes. So Victory Field or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
One thing I do remember about the old Busch Stadium, and Spilly, I'm almost with you on the 8 Men Out. I thought it was good at times, but at other times it's like, come on, this is so slow. No offense, CJ.
It's all right.
There's good parts in it.
It's not just that, Danny. It's the fact that they don't look like baseball players when they play. That's the part that bothers me. They're throwing baseballs like they're chucking pies.
Well, kind of like Dennis Quaid in The Rookie, right? That was pretty bad.
Yeah.
They could have found somebody else to throw better, but
nobody's worse than Freddie Prinze Jr.
Oh yeah, that was pretty bad. They filmed part of that at Synergy Field, the old Riverfront, when I was playing. They didn't have Freddie Prinze come. It was when Griffey, at the end of the movie, he hits a home run into the right center field stands.
Yeah.
It wasn't Freddie throwing; it was some other schmo throwing. It was pretty sad. I was like, this isn't right. You can't have like fake people out here. I know they use stuntmen, but get Freddie Prinze, if he wants to play baseball in a movie, throw it.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Anyways, going back to Busch Stadium real quick, and then I will let you guys go. Can you tell I haven't talked baseball in a long time?
We're finding that consistently, man. Even when we're still doing some radio, it's people are dying to talk. It's cool, man.
Yeah. So So that trip in the old Busch Stadium, I can't remember the clubby's name, the visiting clubby, but the first time I walked in there, the showers were on the right, and there are probably 3 showers, and it was like an 8x8 square. We walk in, one of the showers are running, and there's a big frozen chicken on the floor, and the clubby was thawing out our dinner. It was thawing it out on the shower floor.
And that's why. And it's gotten better, but it hasn't gotten completely better necessarily in minor league baseball. All right, Joe, before we go, let me see how we did here. That was for you, buddy. That was for you. Hopefully it'll be gone by the end of the day. Gosh darn it, this thing hurt.
Big time. What size is that?
Well, it used to be an 1/8, I think. I think I was 3/8 at one time in my life. Yeah, it's 3/8. No, wait a minute. What?
I started out with an 1/8, and now I'm up to a quarter.
Perhaps it shrunk. Maybe I'll go that route. There was some sweat in there. I don't know, but that hurt.
Shorter hair. You had shorter hair.
Well, I got the quarantine no haircut situation going right now as well, like many. So we'll see what happens, and you could see the same with Billy. I should have wore like my dad would wear his hat, like ridiculously high. That might have worked better.
I do that most of the time, just to cover everything up. Next time I got to get me a Cobra Kai outfit though.
Yes, Sensei.
All right. Great. We appreciate you joining us this week. We loved having you. It's always great to catch up with you as always.
Thanks, fellas. I appreciate it. Y'all be safe.
All right. Thanks for paying attention.